response video to the Modern Mystic. Yeah, the bridge video is good. Yeah, mostly agreeable stuff. Like I said, I wasn't sort of glued to this idea of... It was just trying to explain the idea that there isn't more than the one elf thing happening. Like, somehow we're seeing more than that. If we look inside, we're seeing more than that. So, yeah, the idea of... because you do have moments, like from moment to moment, where you do seem to transition personality-wise. Like, you could be in a good mood, and 10 minutes later, you can be in a pretty crappy mood. And it's like it's almost a different elf. It's like you can go from, being a thinking dwarf, and then you turn into a feeling dwarf, or an emotionally more themed. I guess that would be the thing, is to cut these into sort of more definable themes of these dwarves. But maybe they're just collections, and every person would have a different collection tied to a different dwarf. And so they could be within a similar range, or they could have a more dramatic range of personality. So I was thinking microphone maybe is the thing. Maybe it's the microphone that they compete for, in a sense. And the more active they are, the more able they are to access the microphone. The more of a voice they have, the higher the pedestal they stand on. Maybe the microphone's high, and they all get higher depending on how much they're in the game, especially in the game currently. Like there would, like you get points for overall participation, but you get more points for immediate participation. So even a little elf, if he's been doing a lot of talking lately, been really involved, he would it'd be easier for him to get access to the microphone. Something like that. So at least then we have the elves fighting for the attention, rather than something else deciding who gets attention, which is probably more correct. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. So the part I wanted to move on to, I tried to do the think feel thing. I tried to do something with it today, and I couldn't do much with it. I mean, I'm pretty confident of the distinction. It's just hard to qualify feelings. It's hard to put them into it's hard to think of them as thoughts. I mean, they just don't fit into the programmer's mentality. It's still hard for me to come up with an analogy or a metaphor in my own, just for my own sake, of saying, okay, this is what a feeling is. So playing off of your Damaso guy thingy, which I don't hate, which is, I think that's quite valid, because it's back to this feedback thing in a sense, or the system using the system. And so I'm sort of arguing that there is this kernel idea of sensation. Like there are some base sensations, and our body, our brain, can use that mechanism that creates these sensations to create emotions. So I would sort of argue that emotions are all just mixtures of sensations, like guilt or sorrow or pity or whatever. I mean, I don't know them all these emotional kind of things, these emotional kind of feelings are just mixtures of the base ingredient, which is this qualitative feeling of oppression, or a negative thing. This get out, this noise, the grating, again, it's so hard to explain it. Because even the pain is a weird thing. I mean, we experience it over time, and so it has a meaning over time. but the whole mechanism of its blips, the whole mechanism of how it fucks with you, is so interesting. I mean, when you're caught up in it, you can sort of you've done it, I've done it. I haven't forcibly imposed it on myself in any real way, but just even pinching your skin hard, and you try to say, now what is that I'm feeling, and just trying to see, like, what is it really? What is that? What is that little? That's that. That yeah. Well, see, this is where I ran into the brick wall of how do I explain that? How do I describe that thing? How would I explain that thing to something that never felt that thing? That ow, or that ooh, or that eek. Those feelings. So let's just say there's primary colors. Let's just say there's three. Let's just say there's three kinds of feeling. I won't name them now because I can't. Well, let's just say ouch, eek, and ook. Okay? Ouch, eek, and ook. And your brain, by screwing with your body, can create bits of eek, ouch, and ook. And when it's put together in a certain combination, you have an emotional experience. That's either, I guess, tends towards desire or fear. They sort of follow that pattern: revulsion and attraction, positive, negative. All right, again, so. But that's the catch, is I'm still going to sort of argue that there is no real positive, that the positive is made out of relieving us of a steady state that's intrinsically kind of eeky or ooky, and maybe a little owie. I mean, it's where it's like if you try to feel gravity, you can sort of feel it. You can sort of, like, if you say, okay, I'm going to feel gravity, yeah, I can sort of feel it now. And if I want to find my tension, I can find tons of, right here, my neck is bad. I can find all kinds of misery in me if I go looking for it. If I, take it, and I assess my physical condition, I can find lots of unsettledness in me that if it was extracted, I would go, man, that's really good. So that I'm just saying, I think that's what the mechanism is using. It's definitely using its ability to relieve us of our burden, our encumbrances, to artificially create something good, something attractive, something desirable, something chaseable. And the hard stuff is this, like I said, this, ooh, ow, yeah, ow. What is that? I could, I mean, when you're concentrating on it and you're saying, okay, don't let it own you, don't let it own you, don't let it own you, you almost get the sense that you could do some real damage, that you could actually, ram it right through there, right through the pain, when you're focused. But there's that point where it just reaches that, where you just reflexively almost can't do it anymore because it just says too much. And sort of, it's that holding your head kind of headache, like, you gotta do something, but you don't know what to do, but you can't get this out of your head. This pain. So anyway, so I didn't get too far figuring that one out. But I guess the feeling thing, I guess the important part of this climate control system is its immediacy, its nowness. I mean, it's when it's loud, when it's doing its primary color thing, it's really a harsh environment. And and the rest of that stuff is when it has to go through the brain first, when the thing has to bounce off the brain first and then go to the body to create the pain. You know, it's that ricochet kind of effect. Your brain is stimulating it, you know, forcing it upon you, which I would consider all the emotional stuff. You can sort of negotiate with that. You know, you can rationalize your way around that. You just come up with some different thoughts that just say, well, just knock that shit off because, you know, I don't got time for it, or whatever the thing is. You know, you can just kind of get through that, past that. You can talk your brain out of doing it, you know, out of imposing the emotional response on you. You can sort of disable whatever that mechanism is that says, I'm going to now create the emotional response contingent to this circumstance. And so it's part of a thought program. It's almost like one of the elves is doing this. Like one of the elves is really focused on fucking with the climate control system. And you can't really live through him. We don't, a dwarf, one of the dwarfs, you don't ever get to be him as a consciousness, but you can communicate with him. You can tell him to knock it off. You know, or you can tell some other dwarf, you know, to punch him in the head or something, or get him away from the steering wheel. It's like there's dwarves, you know, in the dwarf world, like gremlins. There's gremlins in dwarf world, and some of the dwarves can, you know, control the gremlins. Yeah, that'll really help. All right, forget I said that. Just forget it. Anyway, oh, got this thing in my ear. Ugh. Irritation and irritation. I just don't know what the... Yeah. Nerves. But that's the other catch here, is like some of these nerves, they're just, you know, Great Tex was talking about paper cut, and it was kind of irritating because it was almost talking like your senses chose to ignore the paper cut. But Piro was the first one to bring this up. And it's just so obvious why that is. I mean, in nature, there's very few razor blades. You know, there isn't too many paper cuttables. And so our body doesn't recognize clean cuts. It just doesn't, the nervous system just says nothing happened, essentially. It's not recognizing it as a real injury because it hasn't followed the pattern that it recognizes as damage because it's so clean. And that's all that represents. And it isn't until the damage makes itself more apparent through time that there's certain other constituents of sensation. It's just like all cuts have a healing, and through that healing they end up hurting more later than they hurt at the time you acquired them. And that's like a paper cut. You don't feel it immediately, you feel it later, just like all other cuts that are healing you feel, because the skin starts rubbing against itself, or it's trying to re-knit itself, and so different things are happening that are creating tensions that finally you're going to feel it, because finally it's going to have enough crap to it to be recognized as an injury. Alright, well I really didn't need to add that one probably. I just wanted to throw that in just because it's sort of irritating that our body does recognize damage. It doesn't really have a choice not to recognize it. There's very few circumstances where you're not going to recognize that your leg just got broken. Alright, something else here. I guess it depends on how it's broken, whether you're going to recognize it as a broken. Sometimes you can still walk on it. So anyway, that's a whole different subject. Yeah. Alright, so anyway, I got work to do. I just got to work some more on this feeling thing. And trying to... Because like I said, it is the valuer. It is the thing. That is the mechanism. Those primary colors do attach to these thinking concepts. They do attach to the dwarves themselves. They seem to be carrying, this stuff around with them. Some seem a lot more liberated than others. Some just seem almost drowning in climate control. So maybe it has to do with where they are on the stage. You know, there's cold parts of the stage and warm parts of the stage, and, you know, something like that. I don't know. I have to think about that one too. You know, some are too close to the air conditioner. You know, I don't know, whatever. All right. Well, anyway, so yeah, I have to work some more on it. But yeah, what you've said is good. Okay, the bridge videos, I'm kind of yes, 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 and yes. And so it all seems reasonable. And yeah, that's probably enough. So yeah, it's just trying to, like I said, I can, you know, making this video, my brain did some thinking, it did processing, it did some stuff, and all that stuff didn't feel anything like this. That thing. That thing is just so much different than a thought. Ow. That thing is just really different. That's not a thought. I mean, it's just, that's something else. And, I mean, it's obviously not just, you know, oh, I feel my skin. I mean, if, you know, this is the problem with our vocabulary, because we don't have really good words for this stuff. We just put everything into some stupid category, like all, you know, all this hard sensation is a pain, and all this soft stuff is a feel, and it's, the line isn't that clear. And that's sort of what I was trying to get to before. When you kind of analyze the pain, it's almost made out of a sine wave or something. It has this, and that's part of what's irritating about it, because it's not a consistent wave. It's like it gives you this jolt, and then it gives you nothing, and then, you know, it sneaks up on you again, and, you know, it has this real, you know, it's not a, it's very static. And so that's why it tends to lend me back to the word static itself. It tends to lead me, drift me to thinking about electricity and what a spark is. And, you know, maybe this is the kernel it's made out of, is this fact that once the nervous system became electrical, this was the consequence of it, is that it captured sensation through the exploitation of electricity. Maybe. Because, you know, let's say the first reflexes were chemical, right? I mean, a chemical went from one end of the organism to the other end of the organism, and it used that chemical messenger to signal, to reflexively react to. So it was all chemical. And somewhere in that evolution it became an electrical system. And maybe it's the electricity that created the first ouch, or ooh, or eek. Yeah. Alright, well, enough. So, it's something, anyway, it's a video, alright? It's not, yeah, okay, it's not great, but it's, you know, it's all I got for today. So, maybe I'll get inspired later and have a, you know, do a part 2, but I don't, you know, we'll see. Who the hell knows? Yeah, I'm really, yeah, I've got some of that native tension. I'm wound up. Yeah, and that's how the system's playing me.